Instead of going to the homeowner at the end saying, unfortunately, I want to change the dynamic of the ending saying, good news. I found exactly what caused today's problem and I can take care of it. Now it is your choice to decide what's best for you and your family. Here is a complete solution to take care of all of your issues. A common question I get, is this my only option? Absolutely not. That is the best option. Now, I don't want to decide for you what you need to do for you and your family. So the great news is you get to tell me what's important and what's not.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your host, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your host, Nate and Brian, hanging out with you once again. We are back off of a week of the Authority Brands Trade Conference and looking forward to one of the guest speakers that was at that conference, bringing him into your passenger seat today. We have Mr. Jordan Ristau, and we are looking forward to having a great conversation with him about earning the right in front of the homeowner. And we'll dive into what that means and what it looks like later on in the episode. But for right now, it is time for Brian and I to spend a little bit of time taking up your ears right now. And we're going to turn to Brian for our quote.
Good things may come to those who wait, but only the things left by those who hustle. Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, Abraham Lincoln bringing out the hustle quotes. Okay.
You didn't know he was a motivational speaker, bro? I got you.
Actually, yeah, I'm not sure that he was actually. I know he's
sure
famous.
Was there.
He's famous for speeches, but I don't know that they were because they were motivational necessarily.
Yeah, he had some that were pretty motivational, but I'll definitely say that was one of them. The quote is leading me right into what I want to chat about today, and it's probably a little bit extra, and I know it's very late in your world, so I don't want to drag it out too long, but we had the Authority Brands Convention this week that Nate and I attended, and I guess for the audience that is not part of the brands that Nate and I are part of, Authority Brands is an equity group that owns 1 Hour Heating, Cooling, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, Mr. Sparky Electric, Dry Medic Restoration, Stop Restoration, Screen Mobile, Mosquito Squad, America's Swimming Pool, the Cleaning Authority, Color World, Painting, Duty Calls, Pooper Scoopers, what is it? Home Watch Care Givers, Junk Luggers, Lawn Squad, Monster Tree Service. I think that's all of them. Woofies.
And the Cleaning Authority. Did you get that one?
I think I said the Cleaning Authority. But yeah, I don't know, 16, 18 companies.
It keeps growing.
Yeah. But this was the Trade Brands Conference, so it was 1 Hour, Mr. Sparky, Benjamin Franklin, and the restoration companies and Screen Mobile. So we were all together in one building for a few days. I love these conferences. I love conferences in general. I say it probably not enough. If you're not getting out to things like this, if you're not costing yourself money to go to things like this and see how much bigger your industry is than you think it is. And I don't care what, I see them all the time now because I'm like a connoisseur of this kind of thing. Like you're in roofing, drywall, insurance sales. I don't care what you're in. Garage doors, there is a conference for it. There are conventions for it. And I'm a big believer in that everyone should be going to these things. Pay, sacrifice, give up the time, give up the cash, get out to these things and see how much bigger your own world is than you know. For one. For two, there tends to be amazing training at these things, and the networking and connections is by far the biggest thing that you'll get out of it. So you'll go meet people who are doing what you do at a much higher level, and they're always happy to share with you.
Weren't you training at this conference, Brian?
In this case, the training was more high level than the networking because, yes, I was training at this.
Okay.
As were you, my man. Nate Minnick finally up on that stage solo.
Yeah,
I pushed hard for this. So I'm like, all you know him as on the show is an assassin with an interview question. But what you don't know is if you get Nate in front of a mic and training, particularly technicians, but anybody, you're a beast, bro. There's no question about it. You're one of my favorite trainers to listen to. So
very kind. Thank you.
Yeah. So we were at the convention, and to bring me back to the Abraham Lincoln quote, I was kind of, when we go to these, every one we go to, we get more and more people coming up wanting to take pictures, just thanking us for the show, and always giving a cool testimony of what the show's done for them personally or their company, if it's an owner, or their team, if it's a manager. And we love hearing these stories. But this time, what I thought I would focus on, I had my wife with me, which was cool because this is the first trade brands convention she's been to with me, for our brands.
I'd shout out to Amelia, but she wouldn't hear it anyway. So,
right. You know how many people met her and said, "Oh my gosh, you're Amelia. I've heard about you so many times." And she just goes, she's like, "Well, I'm going to have to listen to some now to find out if it was good or bad." She said that like over and over. I'm like, yeah, she won't. As Nate famously said when we were talking about our wives in this show, "You still do that?" So I said I would just notate the three biggest questions I got asked. So either the three biggest things people talked about or the three biggest questions I was asked, because I tend to get asked a lot of questions about the show or about life around the show. And those three things were, number one, and I guess this would have been the episode that aired the week before, so obviously it was top of mind for a lot of our audience, was the 4 Fs. A lot of people wanted to know more about the 4 Fs, or just mention that it helped them out to kind of have that focus. And the 4 Fs is something I train on with my team. It's something I try to hold myself accountable to. I talk to the family about it. And that is the 4 Fs is the 4 quadrants, I guess, of your life that need to be the most important and that you're focusing all the time, which is faith, family, finances, fitness, right? So your spiritual life, your role as a husband, father, son, brother, sister, whatever, mom, whatever you are, your finances, meaning obviously you got to have more coming in than going out, but that can mean a whole lot of different things to different people, but always progressing. Where are you going? Where do you want to be in that? And then your fitness, you need to be physically fit. You need to be healthy. Your longevity in every way depends on it.
I know you mentioned that briefly in the episode just a little bit ago, but most of that stems from a 2-part conversation we had with Mark Jennison of I Am
Correct.
a Comeback. And that's back from episode that aired November 21st of 2022 and the following week, November 28th of 2022. If you haven't heard those were killer and emotional conversations.
Yeah. Awesome episodes. I took the 4 from there. He actually has 6. He also has Future and Freedom. And I won't get into that, but by all means, listen to it and let us know what you think. But people were asking, how do I apply it? How do I hold myself accountable? Well, it's simple. This is what I do in quarterly reviews with my team is I'll have these 4 things, and I'll say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you couldn't possibly be worse, 10 being you are the perfect version of a human being in your spiritual life, family life, finances, and your fitness level. Where are you? 1 to 10. And let's say they say a 6. Okay, so what does a 10 look like to you? And then they explain it. Okay, so let's talk about it. And all these are questions. I'm not doing it for them. I'll certainly help and guide and lead them, but I'm not doing it for you. What does a 10 look like? And what are 3 things you could do over the next 90 days to help you progress toward that 10? Right? So, but you don't, and I'm falling off this. I'm like horrible at holding myself accountable to doing it with my team as a leader. I'm much better at holding team leaders accountable to do it with their teams. But you don't need anyone to do this for you. And if you're sitting here thinking about, oh, I wish my boss would no. Like, are you a child? Does someone literally need to hold your hand and walk you through your life? You just got the blueprint. So take it and work with it. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at in your faith, your spiritual life, whatever that means to you? Okay, what does a 10 look like to you? What are 3 things you could do in the next month or 3 months or 2024 or whatever year it is while you're listening to get you to a 10? Write those things down and then write down your date. Here's where I'll be by this date in terms of doing these. And then move on down the list for the 4. Right? And
So
Mark,
good.
what
So
Mark
good.
Jennison does is he does what he calls F stacking. So you have to do one thing per day for all of those Fs. And in the beginning, it might just be watch a YouTube video by Robert Kiyosaki or Dave Ramsey or whoever you listen to for financial advice, right? Well, eventually you're doing that every day. Eventually you go, this isn't enough anymore. So you raise that up, right? And now all of a sudden you're taking big actions every single day. And before you know it, you're at what you thought was a 10 a year ago, but now it's a 3 to you. And then 3 years down the road, what you considered a 3 back then was a -6. And you've just progressed in ways you can't even imagine because it's all about focus. You're putting the magnifying glass under the sun. So the sun's hot as it is, but you put a magnifying glass between that sun and the palm of your hand, and you're going to get burned quickly. You need that focus in your life in these 4 quadrants. So that was number 1. So people had a lot of questions about it. Like, can you do more? A lot of people asked me to do an episode on it. And I don't think that's a horrible idea, but I think Mark Jennison did an episode. But that's all you need right there. That's enough. Now just get started. Go find a notepad, keep it with you at all times, and get busy. Second biggest question was probably more geared for my wife, but also asked of me as well, is does he or do I really go as hard as I say on the show? Like, am I really this kind of fanatical about it wasn't really the fitness aspect, although maybe they saw a spare tire on me and were like, yeah, no, you're gross. like Andy Elliott pinching my belly fat. But it was like, is it really waste no day? Like, there's never a rest day. And, the first day I found myself saying like, well, no, you got to rest. Rest is important. And I felt like I was kind of just avoiding a debate maybe. But as the days progressed, I started saying, yeah, no, it's literally waste no day. There's 0 days ever that I'm not trying to get better, trying to get smarter, trying to be a better husband, father, more fit, lift more weight, cut my diet in better. That doesn't mean I don't have desserts and stuff. Like I'll pig out from time to time, but it's not like every day. But yeah, and she would say it too. She would just nod and say, no, yeah, he's like always listening to audiobooks and podcasts. And like, we're in the shower together on weekend mornings at the house. And like, we're listening to some kind of audiobook. Like, it's always happening. And our conversations are about getting better. And I've been asked that a million times before, and I just kind of laugh it off. But with her there and her answering that question a few times, I just thought maybe it's worth talking about. Look, it sounds cliche, but I don't know how long I'm going to be here. So this could be my last year on this earth. 2024 could be the last year I spend as a leader, as a podcaster, as a husband, as a father, as a friend. And I've made enough mistakes over my life that I shouldn't have any of those roles. They should have been taken from me. But I'm blessed and fortunate enough to have these roles and responsibilities now with the person I am now, today. So I got to make the best of them all. So I want to get as much as I possibly can out of the time that I have left. So if you're thinking like, I'll start next week, next month, next year, like, you grow up. You don't know you're going to be here at that time. So let's get it now. And then number 3, which was my favorite question I got several times, although I wish I got it a lot more, was, and I actually asked Andy Elliott something like this on our last day together in Mexico a couple weeks ago. What would you start doing Monday morning if you were me to blow up my sales or to blow up my team? So I got asked this by both salespeople and leaders and company leaders. And I loved it. And it came to me while I was training I believe, the Sparky team. So I was training all the Mr. Sparky owners and managers and techs that were in the conference. And I said, raise your hand if you have a script at your I'm sorry, no, it was the Benjamin Franklin teams. So I said, raise your hand if you have a script for getting your techs to ask people to let them test their water. Do you have a script for your techs to get people to let them test water? And 0 hands went up in that building. I said, so we're just winging it. So do you have a way that you show your technician how to solder pipe? Of course, like all hands will go up, right? But nobody had a script, a word track, a script for how you get clients to let you test water. And so the biggest hurdle that I hear about people not doing water treatment is our clients never let us test the water, right? And there's a version of this, and no matter what you do, I don't care what you do for a living, if there's any selling component to it. So the biggest advice that I could come up with was, wherever you can get it from, as a tech, as a salesperson, as a leader in the company, whatever keeps your people from selling, find a script. In most cases, you can find it in this show because there's a million of them if you go back through all the episodes. Write that script down, etch it into a 10 Commandments Moses style tablet, and say, this is how we go to market to do this. Right? This is how we get people to let us do a system inspection when we're only there for whatever we're there for. This is how we get people to let us look at the panel when we're only there for a light that's flickering. But in every case, we do it, and this is how we do it. And then role play the crap out of it. Have a script for how they ask people to buy, and then role play the crap out of it. They need to be perfect at it in the training room before they ever try to do it with a customer.
Absolutely. And it's so necessary, Brian. And I love it because you're not talking about like, go solve world hunger. You're not talking about like, go revolutionize your business by employing these 65 different strategies that will take you, 6 years to do. You're talking about like, this could be applied and implemented into your business within 10 minutes.
And needs to, like has to. You have to look at every part of the sale the same way you look at replacing a breaker in the panel. Like you would never let an apprentice day one on the job. You wouldn't say, now go downstairs and swap this breaker out, because you can almost guarantee that power's not getting shut off first, right?
Right.
So you've lost an apprentice, and you should take it as seriously that they don't present without some kind of script for a presentation. And in the beginning, they have to master your script, and they have to use your script. And through time, they can make it their own and weave their personality into it. But if you don't have a script, then they're out there just flailing with no life preserver, and they don't know how to swim. So you have to get them that base knowledge first, and then they can work their personality into it. So that'd be my biggest advice. If you're going to start doing something differently tomorrow morning, that's what I would do.
I love it, Brian. Good advice there. And absolutely some of the advice some of the questions that you heard there, I'm sure were not only found at the Authority Brands Conference, but you've heard those repeatedly through other places that you've gone to. So nice little Q&A there for the fans. Speaking of the fans, Brian, it is that time of the podcast where we shout out one of the fans. So who are we highlighting today?
Always elevating with Waste No Day. 5 stars. Waste No Day is an incredible podcast that has helped me level up in many areas of my life. It's not just about sales and communication skills, but also about being a better entrepreneur, employee, and man. It's always a great source of motivation and ambition. Overall, Waste No Day is a must listen for anyone looking to grow personally and professionally. Highly recommended. Gavin Goodman.
Oh, appreciate that, Gavin. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Gavin's my man. Gavin's like 18, 19, maybe 20. He's somewhere around there. Sorry, buddy. I don't know your age, but he's very young. And I was speaking at the Home Service Freedom event I don't know, a couple months ago or whatever. And while I was speaking, I asked for volunteers to role play, except his dad had texted me, Nick Goodman. His dad had texted me. These guys are from Goodman Plumbing. Texted me and said, "Hey man, if you see Gavin, make him role play." So I was like 300, 400, 500 people in the crowd, and I asked for a volunteer, and then looked down at Gavin and said, "Come on up here, buddy." So we got Gavin to role play on stage in front of a few hundred strangers, which was freaking awesome. Let me tell you something, man. That kid went, and he was like upset with himself because he thought he didn't do it perfectly. But I don't think you can plan for how your body is going to react to being in front of that many strangers for the first time. And I thought Gavin crushed it. So nice job, buddy. This would have been probably, this review was written before that. So I'm guessing this review would look a little bit differently if you knew I was going to do that to him.
Little payback, huh?
This review was written in November. So cool. But yeah, appreciate you, Gavin. I think like that whole Goodman Plumbing team has written reviews, and we really appreciate them. And if you appreciate the show, and I know some people do, because everywhere we go in the trades and in home services, we get stopped and told, then write us a review. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, it's easy peasy. If you listen on Spotify, just hit the 5-star button. You can't write a review yet, but you can just hit that rating button, and it's even easier. And Audible, you have to listen to an episode or two, but then you can write us a review in Audible. Either way, we appreciate all the reviews. We also appreciate everybody telling our spouses out in public how much this has helped you and changed your life. You guys totally got me hooked up in the hotel that night, and I appreciate it. Nate's like, well, Nate looks at me like, did you just? Totally hooked up, and I appreciate that. And if you don't stop us, and if you don't write a review, but you do listen to the show, we still appreciate every minute of your life that you give us.
Absolutely. So shout out to you guys, the fans. Shout out to you, Gavin. And I want to take a quick moment before we transition here to shout out the franchise winners of the year in the 3 brands that we care about the most here, personally, because we're invested in them ourselves. So Matt and Mary Beth Black, you guys won franchise of the year for Benjamin Franklin Plumbing.
Woohoo!
Spencer and Francis Pass, y'all won the franchise of the year for 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning. And Mr. Aaron Hagan and teammate Daryl Boyd there, and your team, y'all won franchise of the year for Mr. Sparky Electric. Well done to each and every one of you. Amazing job. Keep it up.
Yeah, congrats to all you guys. Great people, all those people you just mentioned. And there were a whole bunch of awards won by great teams. And every time I'm with the people of these brands, I feel like Aaron Hagan did in his acceptance speech, where he's just like, man, I love this brand. I love these people. I love the team. It's just, we're so grateful to be a part of it all.
Absolutely. Well, I know who else is grateful to be a part of it all, and that is Mr. Jordan Ristau, as we're going to put him in your passenger seat. Our guest today is Jordan Ristau. He is a trainer for 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning and Benjamin Franklin Plumbing and Mr. Sparky Electric. He started out working for 1 Hour about 10 years ago, doing everything from maintenance to repairs to designing home comfort systems for thousands of homeowners. He then went on to join Success Academy, which is the training wing of Authority Brands, in April of 2023 to give back as a full-time trainer. He feels extremely fortunate to have amazing mentors in his life that have helped him get to where he is at now. When he's not training, he enjoys playing flag football, spending time with his wife, Brittany, and their daughter, Sylvia. Welcome here to the show, Jordan.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure. You've had some amazing people on here, and I'm just here trying to help out the technicians if I can.
We got an amazing person on right now, buddy. I'm talking about Nate Minnick. No, I'm talking about Jordan Ristau. So the 3 of us actually, you know what? We were all 3 together yesterday and did not get a pick in Arlington, Texas. That's too bad.
Who dropped the ball there? Is that me?
Yeah. Yes, that's you.
I'll take it.
Way to take ownership.
Yeah, there you go. Pass that
Hey,
buck,
man,
baby.
it's hard to come up to somebody so famous.
Yeah, I get it.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of that, we were actually with you, and we just wrapped up the Authority Brands Trade Conference, which was a great time. Spent some good time there. Got to hear from you on the stage a little bit. I'm not sure how many other speaking engagements you were at, but I saw you doing some role playing with the Sparky Boys, which was really cool. And I'm sure we're going to have some good times today. What was your favorite part about the conference?
You know, if I'm going to brown nose a little bit, I'll say it's Brian, but
Oh
I
my.
don't really
Okay.
feel like,
Hey,
I don't
Jordan,
feel
thanks
like
a lot,
doing that
man. There's
today.
no chance I'm going to pronounce your last name right anymore at this point. So it's all
No,
good.
honestly, it was awesome. I got to speak two different times. I got to talk about ethics in sales, which is really important to me. You know, sales ethics, selling right, if you will, and then overcoming objections. Just really getting these objections out front and center before they come up, and then the gala. I mean, that was awesome.
It
Seeing
was.
Yeah, the
seeing
award show
Francis
was
pass.
fantastic.
If Francis Pass said pass it on, I was gonna lose it right there, man. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's definitely a storybook for the trades. Really cool.
Yeah.
OG. Yep.
Yep.
Well, Jordan, I'm not sure that you would quite necessarily qualify for the title of OG just yet, but we do like to know a little bit more about the history of our guests. So why don't you give us kind of your background and where you came from, how you grew up in the trades, and then what you're doing now.
Yeah. So 2014, I went from Arizona, Yuma to be exact, in a Penske truck with a German Shepherd in the passenger seat with no interviews. Drove myself to Kansas City. And I interviewed with gentlemen at 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning. And I knew from the second I talked to them, that was the place I wanted to be. Just the culture, um, the conversations we had, it felt like we were friends forever. That gentleman is one of the biggest mentors of my life. His name is Matt Gower. He was my service manager for all 10 years, and I owe a lot to him. So he put me in a truck as a maintenance technician. I worked my way up to doing repairs, all the way up to designing home comfort systems for homeowners, and it was an absolute blast. I loved every minute of it. Uh, Now I'm with Success Academy as of 1 year ago, about in April. The reason I left was because my wife and I had a hard time conceiving. And when we finally were able to have that baby, I wanted more time. And I loved training. I loved giving back. And I was able to do both. So I couldn't ask for a better opportunity. I love the people I work with and work for. And now I've made it. I'm on the podcast and I'm ready to share with everybody if I can.
Well,
Little did you know, more time with the family was going to mean like traveling 3 out of 4 weeks a
Crazy.
month to go
Yeah,
train
so
shops, right?
funny enough is 6 or 7 weeks in a row now. Yeah, I've been on the road, but hey, June, July, August, I'm with the family 24/7, and
okay.
that's what I like.
Nice. That's a complete opposite of your former life, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were supposed to take vacation in summer. It feels weird.
You're not if you're in HVAC and you're
Yeah,
listening.
exactly. Exactly.
Well, congratulations on the new position. Congratulations on the new child. And
Thank you.
congratulations on making it on the podcast, buddy. You have arrived.
I have arrived. That's it.
Well, it's good to have you on the show. And for those of you of our listeners who are not familiar, he mentioned Success Academy, which is the training arm of Authority Brands. And so his main goal is basically the improvement of technicians. I don't want to speak for you, but the improvement of technicians, plumbers, electricians across the Authority Brands network in whatever capacity he can do that. And so we're honored to have him on the show today and looking forward to jumping in here, Jordan. I know that you mentioned just there that you do have a heritage in the HVAC industry. Any background in plumbing or electrical as well, or not so much?
Yeah, when I was in school, college, that is, when we were learning a little bit about the trades, I spent some time dabbling in it. But besides gluing some PVC drains together, no, sir.
Yeah, no doubt about that. But the good news is that regardless of what trade or background our listeners come from, I believe the concepts we're going to be talking about today are universal in terms of their impact and their application. And so I want to dig in there and start off with the basics. You mentioned is part of your what your speaking engagement this week at the Authority Brands Conference was sales ethics. And so I want to kind of hear from you what the definition of that is, because when you start throwing around terms like sales ethics, some people have one definition of it. Some people have another definition of it. Some people say, well, this is ethical, but that's not ethical. And other
Yeah.
people draw the line, 5 feet over from that point. So
Yeah.
where's the starting point on this thing?
Yeah, unfortunately, people can make it to where it's convenient for what they're trying to do. I get what you're saying. And for me, it's pretty simple. When I was in the field, I just really wanted to treat every single customer like they were a family, right? If they were my mom, my dad, my grandmother. My first customer deserved the same service my last customer did. Now, the big thing to me is when I ask everybody who in here wants to be the pushy salesman, nobody wants to raise their hand. Who wants to be the person who's unethical? No one raises their hand. And I ask one simple question, then why do we spend the homeowner's money for them? Why do
Okay.
we go into that house and tell them what they need to do, what they need to buy, or don't bring something up because we don't think that they need it or it's not worth it?
Well, that'd be the opposite of spending the homeowner's money, right? That'd be saving the
Right.
homeowner's money.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm tracking with you a little bit, but I want to understand more fully, because when you say something like that, it can be taken kind of controversially.
Sure.
Well, Jordan, what else am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to tell them what they need to do. I'm supposed to tell them what their system needs. I'm supposed to point out the things that aren't working or unsafe or are bound to fail or whatever it may be. What do you mean?
You're exactly right. Yeah, I know. I'm glad you clarified that. So one of the biggest things that I like to get into is something I call earning the right. When I go into a home, I like to give my homeowner one option, a complete solution to solve all the issues that we talked about and the things that I found. And I don't think that it's my job to tell them what option 2, option 3 should be. What I think my job is to help educate them and build those together. So what I mean by that is when I go to a home, I will not bring up recommendations until the homeowner asks me to do such. And what I mean by that is I go into the home and I find a dirty blower wheel, for example. I bring the homeowner down. I'll talk to them, ask them questions like, have they seen this before? Is this something that they've been aware of, right? And instead of continuing to talk and answering questions that weren't asked of me, I wait for them to respond. Things that I get most times is, well, no, I've not seen that before. Is that normal? No, it's not, Bob, Betty. It's not normal to have that type of dust and dirt on your system. I wait for the response. Generally, it is, well, what can we do about it? Can we clean it? No, absolutely, we can clean it. But my concern is more of where it's coming from. If I were to clean it and next year it's just as bad, would you be upset with me? And that is a very, very basic way to put it. But when I get that homeowner to ask me, hey, you know what, can you tell me how to solve that? It's my job now to give them all of their solutions, to completely solve the issue, to never have it again. I give them that option. And then from there, they tell me what they can live with and what's important to them and their family.
All right, so I want to push back on you a little bit there because you're on one hand you're telling me that like you're only going to present one option, but on the other hand, in the moment when you're actually looking at the item of concern or the issue at present, there does need to be a discussion about what the homeowner can and cannot do at that point, which could involve multiple options. Am I misunderstanding you, or how would you phrase that differently?
Yeah, so the big thing is showing them what's going on with their system is necessary, right? They need to know. I love show and tell. It's something that they have to be aware of what's going on. But I'm not going to give options until I know all of the solutions. So what I guess you're asking me is, are there multiple solutions? Yes. And I give them all of them, and they're one option.
Okay, so let's stick with the blower wheel thing, right? And I'm the
Yep.
homeowner, and I'm saying, well, Jordan, no, I've never seen that. Is that bad?
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that I see every day. No, that's why I wanted to bring you down here.
Okay. Well, is this something that you could like clean up for us, or like, is this important? Why does this matter?
No, absolutely. It is something that I can clean, and it is a vital piece of your heating and cooling system. But I don't know about you, but I'm more concerned about how it got there. Wouldn't you agree?
I suppose. I mean, it's all kind of new to me, but it looks filthy, and that certainly doesn't seem good for a mechanical piece of equipment. So yes, that's
Absolutely.
concerning.
Yeah. So I think you're on the right page with getting this thing cleaned up. I completely agree. But if you wouldn't mind, if I'd like to figure out where it's coming from. And when I find something or observe something that could be happening, is it okay if I bring that to your attention?
Oh, you sure? Absolutely.
Is that fantastic? I'll let you know what I find because right now I don't know. I have to
Okay.
take a look. I have to look over everything. I would hate to bring up a solution that might not completely fix the problem. And you don't want to do something that's just going to be a temporary fix, right?
No, no, definitely not.
Okay, good, good. So I'm going to figure out why it's happening and not just what's the problem.
Gotcha. Okay.
What's up, Waste No Day warriors? 80% of new businesses fail, and UpFlip is on a mission to flip that script by connecting business owners and entrepreneurs with the knowledge they need to not just survive, but to thrive. On the UpFlip podcast, you'll hear interviews with real business owners who share the tried and true strategies and insights that help them turn their ideas into profitable businesses. If you're looking for actionable, practical business advice, you'll find it on the UpFlip podcast.
All right. So I'm tracking with you, Jordan. I mean, and kind of the reason that I'm pushing that out is because as soon as you mention blower dirty wheel, I want to say, okay, well, option 1, we can clean it. Option 2, we can replace it.
Yeah.
Option 3, we can talk about prevention as to how it even got this way in the first place. Option
Sure.
4, we can do all of those things, and some combination of them. Right. And it sounds to me like you're working more through the investigation piece to kind of curate
Exactly.
the proper solution before you just present all of them up front and give that choice fatigue to the homeowner.
Yes. So I might actually need to do that 3 times in a call. As I find a problem, I do this each time and I get permission to bring up a solution at the end. Instead of going to the homeowner at the end saying, unfortunately, I found, I want to change the dynamic of the ending saying, good news. I found exactly what caused today's problem and I can take care of it. Now it is your choice to decide what's best for you and your family. Here is a complete solution to take care of all of your issues. A common question I get, is this my only option? Absolutely not. That is the best option. Now, I don't want to decide for you what you need to do for you and your family. So the great news is you get to tell me what's important and what's not. We can design 2, 3, or 4 options until we find something that's perfect for you. How does that sound?
Okay, so you're a pretty young dude, so I'm not sure if you remember the whole like Dell computer, boom, if you will. Like Dell was very innovative when it came to build your own computer. And I remember going through their website and it was just question after question after question. How big of a monitor do you want? And what type of sound system do you want? And what type of motherboard? And what type of memory? And what type of RAM? And what type of, CD, DVD writer, all these things, right? And so it kind of sounds to me like you're doing this custom curation, custom build along the process as opposed to waiting to the very end where you just boom and whoa,
Exactly.
okay, we got to work through it. All right, so then I want to kind of step into another direction there and ask what happens when you come across a scenario where you're finding an abnormal amount of issues that need addressed, because it would seem
Great question.
it would seem to me that if I'm the homeowner and every like 7 minutes you're like, hey Nate, come on down here, I got another thing to show you. It's going to feel a little bit like, seriously, dude, can't you just kind of like collect all this information and then give it to me at the end? Do I have to keep coming down here?
Yeah. No, I can appreciate that that take. And something I never really dealt with too much, to be honest with you. When I was finding solutions like that or issues like that, I apologize, and we would talk 2 or 3 times, over the conversation, then it's time to bring up overall, where do we think we want to stop this? Like, do we want to start talking about new equipment at this point? And I tell them, look, I'm not here to push a bunch of things on you. You had me out because you wanted to know what was going on with your system. I know we're friends, but you don't want to see me every 6 months. So my job is to educate you on everything I'm seeing in the system. Is your job is to decide what's best for you and your family. And no is a perfectly acceptable answer. And if at the end of this you feel like there are a lot of things that need to be done, I've done my job and told you about them. Now you can tell me how you'd like to handle it. Now, when somebody has an abnormal amount of issues on their system, it generally ended up with us talking about system replacement. But I never took them down that road without them wanting to go down that road. They asked me, what is it going to take to fix all this? Wouldn't it make more sense to replace it? It's not a terrible idea due to the age, but now I'm not pushing them towards that option. And that really helped. It was a much better dynamic at the end of the call, the way that I felt I had that system down.
So it sounds to me like you're being very crafty about basically having the homeowner draw their own conclusions
Yes.
about the problems that you are revealing or
Yes.
finding. And that way, we all know that an opinion forced is not really an
Yes.
opinion at all, but an opinion processed and originated is a certifiable opinion, certifiable opinion. And that makes all the difference in the world, right? If I tell my kid, like, hey, you need to go do this chore. Well, it's me telling them they have to go do the chore. They may do out of compliance. They may do out of, even out of some reward, some type of financial gain or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's completely different if they opt to do it on their own, out of their own fruition, out of their own desire, out of their own opinion, if you will. It's completely different. And then it's a whole lot harder for them to back out of it or to get, off the track or to lose their desire because it originated with them. Am I hearing you
You're
correctly?
exactly right. So, I don't know if you're a big political person, but has anybody ever talked to you and changed your mind by telling you what you needed to think?
Right.
No, it's not going to happen. But if you come to that conclusion yourself, you're a lot more likely to see the other side. I don't like to sell and tell, tell, right? I like to have my homeowners educated. And when they ask me to solve a problem, it is not my job to tell them, oh, you don't need this, you don't need that. I said, this is the best, most complete solution, and you tell me a different way if this does not fit within your budget. And I did that for each thing. And then when that idea was theirs and they asked me to solve that problem, at the end of the call, I never got the, why are you bringing this up? What are we talking about this for? It was always, hey, I'm just solving that issue that you asked me.
Yeah.
And it was much better.
No, I like this, Jordan, and forgive me, I'm trying to poke some holes because I want to see,
good.
I want to see how this is going. Have you ever come up against like a defensive homeowner? They may appear apathetic, but my guess is it's really just defense. And like you start, hey, come on down here, let me show you. So, look at this blower wheel. Does this look good to you? And you're like, I don't know.
Let's just role play it. Let's just role play it. Bring me down, buddy.
Sure.
I got you. I'm all apathy today. I've been traveling way too much lately. I'm burned
I feel
out.
You.
My flight was delayed today. I'm dying here.
I've been told the second I walk into a house, every time you guys come here, you just try to sell me something.
Oh,
the second I walk in the door.
I love that one.
I didn't find it too difficult. It wasn't too concerning. It's because, unfortunately, we didn't do a very good job the last time, and that's our fault. That's our fault. So let me go ahead and set the stage and repair this relationship, if you will, because we're on the wrong term. But yeah, whatever you'd like to role play, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of role play.
Call me down, and I'm going to give you a little bit of indifference.
All right. So, Brian, if you have a second, I'd love to show you something on your system.
When you say a second.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could be as long or as little as you'd like, but I'd love you to just come down, take a quick look. Because if I don't tell you about it, it causes an issue. Are you going to be upset?
Yeah, I mean, I want to know. You can't tell me from here because this is my favorite episode of Friends, and I really want to.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
I understand. But if you would come down for a second, me explaining it to you and you seeing it, it's going to be much quicker. You said your time is very valuable, and I appreciate that. But if you look at it, you're going to be able to come to a conclusion much quicker than if I explained it to you. Is that fair?
All right. That makes sense.
Perfect. If you follow me down here, I just want to show you something real fast.
Let's walk downstairs.
Nice. Beautifully done. So Brian, I the only reason I wanted to bring you down here, and this is me grabbing the massive amount of lint-like substance on the back of your blower wheel.
Yeah, it's gross.
Have you been shown this before?
I don't think I've seen that before.
Yeah, I don't see it a lot either, and that's why I wanted you to come down. Do you see now why I called you down here?
You probably could have shown me that upstairs, but all right.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to track this into the kitchen area. Does that make
Gotcha. Yeah, sure,
Okay.
sure.
I just want to make sure I didn't track it through the rest of your house because I wouldn't want that done on mine, and you wouldn't do that in my house, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I just trying to respect your property. But I just wanted to show you this. This is probably something that you don't see every day.
No, in fact, I've never seen it.
Yeah. This is connected to every room in your house. It's actually your whole air delivery system.
That's where the air flows through to get to the vents.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, common question I get from homeowners is, can you clean it? Right? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Well, that's what you're here to do, right?
No, absolutely. I am here to clean it. But if I were to clean that and next time the next guy comes out 6 months later and has you come down again and you miss another episode of Friends, are you going to be upset?
Well, I wouldn't have to go down, would I? Because you already showed me.
Exactly. But what I'll say is this: I could clean it. I could take care of this one time for you, but it's really a Band-Aid fix. If I were to clean this, could I ask you what's your plan for filtration going forward? If I were to clean it,
Well, we have that little filter right there that we don't change. Isn't that enough?
yeah. If it was enough, I wouldn't have had to interrupt your time.
Oh, is that supposed to keep all that dust off there?
Yeah, and unfortunately, as you can see, hey, I don't want to be having this conversation any more than you do. But ultimately, it's coming from somewhere. Wouldn't you agree?
Sure.
And if you wouldn't mind, I'm here. You're paying for my time. I'd love to just investigate and at least give you a solution on what it would take to take care of it. Because cleaning it, we're going to get taken care of, right? That's a bare minimum.
Okay.
Right? And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to just take a look and give you an option to eliminate this going forward. Sound good?
So you have an option you can show me where I won't have this happen again.
I might.
Oh, okay.
And I'd love to, but until I investigate everything, I'm not going to know. But again, I didn't want to come up to you and, hey, Brian, here's a bunch of things you need to buy. And you're like, wait a second. I don't even know what you're talking about. So I just want to make sure you are okay with me doing that. And then at the end, you'll have a opportunity to say yes or no. Does that sound good?
That sounds good. How much is it?
Awesome. I don't know. I've seen these solutions go from $15 a month to $20.
So it's between $15 and $20 a month.
Absolutely.
That's not a big. Yeah. That's not a huge range.
Yeah, not a big deal, right?
No, that's not. That's something we can chew on for sure.
Sure, but again, let me just get all the answers before I come up and talk about price. How's that sound?
Okay.
Cool. So when you gave me a question, I answered the question because I've seen a solution go for $15 to $20 a month. Is that your solution? I don't know. But you asked me, what do these things go for? So I answered your question, and I stopped there. I didn't want to go into every other solution and start creating objections where there was no objection.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love the role play. By the way, I think that was stout. It was nice performance on both of your parts, Brian. You handled the apathy well. It felt like it was.
It's like it's natural.
Yeah, absolutely. But Jordan, a question on that. Okay, so yes. I appreciate the fact that you're saying like, hey, I don't know yet. That's kind of like doctor. I'm hearing the doctor come out of you like, hey, before we jump to conclusions, before I say the C word, before you start freaking out and panicking and worrying and Googling all these things,
C word.
C word? C word.
In doctor talk, that's cancer. Okay, boys.
Okay. All right. We weren't tracking.
Sorry. A bunch of technicians over here. Okay.
Jordan just texted me a couple other C words. I'm like, no, I don't think that's what he's talking about, buddy.
Got it. Okay. So anyways, before you start jumping to all these conclusions and, going to WebMD and all that, let me do my due diligence. Let's run a couple tests. Let's figure out what we're dealing with. So that sounds all really good and well, right? And I'm sure that, you're proficient enough to come up with the solutions. But even in your proficiency of coming up with the solutions, we all know, and maybe this is my head trash, because I've been in the industry, but we all know that there are different levels of solutions that can be applied, right?
Exactly.
So in building that, all the things that would go into preventing a blower wheel from getting dirty or whatever the solution you're trying to fill.
Yep.
Do you when you come back to actually do the presentation, are you dropping the full gamut of all the things that could help prevent the issue. And here's where I'm getting hung up because, you know,
No, I understand.
options are a pretty big deal, you know, allows the customer to
Yeah.
buy. And I respect people's ability to do different procedures in the field and be successful at those. You know, Brian was actually a one option guy, but I'm curious as to like how you make your selection as to what you present when there's quite a variety of solutions that could address the issue, anywhere from bare minimum to like above and beyond luxurious. So where do you fall on that?
So that's where then I get to be the professional. That's where I get to take my static pressure test to see if AeroSeal is a good solution. Duct cleaning. Are we HEPA filtration? Are we micropower guard? So I'm going to then take my years of experience to formulate what I believe is a 100% guaranteed solution to take care of that problem. So this is where technicians then are not deciding for the homeowner in such a form that, hey, it's going to be a lot of money. I don't want to bring it up. I'm going to give them the best package of options that's going to take care of the dust problem that he is having in his house. And I'm going to give him that solution. So for example, if the static pressure in the supply could take the AeroSeal would be good so the Venturi effect doesn't pull dust and dirt back into the ductwork after the filter. Huge deal. Cleaning the ductwork is massive because if we're just going to seal up over dust and dirt, it's not going to stick and it's not going to work as well. A micropower guard might create static issues, so I may need to look into other options, but that's then where I do my work. Now, you see where the issue would be if I told him I had solutions and started telling him, hey, I can do this, I can do this. I don't know. So that's where I then have to go in to formulate his best option that I can 100% guarantee will take care of the problem, because that is something that we have in our trades, is 100% guarantee.
So I do see one, and that's great stuff, Jordan. I do see one issue I would point out at least in our role play is you told me anywhere from between $15 and $20 a month.
Yep.
So what
for the lowest option?
But you didn't say that. You said between 15 and 20 a month. So if you come back now and it is a clean and seal, it's AeroSeal, duct cleaning, maybe micropower guard, OxyQuantum, you're going to want to do it. You find that it's extremely humid, or maybe he brings that up later. Now you're kind of pigeonholed there because he's expecting everything done for $15, $20 a month versus the quote unquote price conditioning. I heard this first from Gene Slade, where he would say, oh, we have clients in similar situations that go with packages between $2,500 and $25,000 and everywhere in between. But I really do have to break down your system and understand exactly what would benefit you the most to give you that exact range, right?
Yeah.
Now the sticker shock.
So he does it the opposite way.
Yeah, the sticker shock, quote unquote, is saying $25,000. Now, if you come back with 11, you're a hero. Versus, or you could do it your way and just say, hey, anywhere from $15 a month to $255 a month, because you've seen IAQ packages go up into that realm, I'm sure. And that way, when you come back with $112 a month, you're still not necessarily the villain.
So if I were to come to you at the end of this and I give you a complete solution that, let's say, is $5,000, which would be $150 a month for sake of argument, right? A 10-year pushed out as long as we could. And you were to say to me, well, you said downstairs you have solutions for $15 a month or $20 a month. I would say, absolutely, I do. That would be something that would help you with the dust and dirt. But I wanted to give you the complete solution. Now, I want you to know that I have something for $150 and something for $15. So guess what? Now you're not saying no to the top option. You're not gone and out of there because I'm just trying to sell you a bunch. You know that I've got everything in between and we can make these together. And so I'll tell you now, if that option at $15 a month is good for you, I'm going to educate you on what it's going to do and what it's not going to do and why it's different from the $150 a month option. So now I have that range completely built, and now 3, 4, 5 options, whatever they decide, he's bought in more to where 20, I don't know. I didn't like to scare the customer on the high price. It was something that I did the opposite way.
Yeah.
I told him the low price.
I would recommend trying it. And I came through
Sure.
so many
I've done
versions in my career of all of these. But when I did kind of throw a big number out with a very low number and say somewhere in between, I did find, psychologically speaking, they get married to that biggest number and they get terrified. And when you come in with a slightly lower number or a dramatically lower number, they're a lot easier to work with.
And I've used that when I sold systems on my actual process. It's got the big, large $20,000 number right on it. So I know exactly what you're talking about and how that works.
Yeah, and that's just in the casual conversation when the guy,
Mm-hmm.
you haven't shown him anything yet, and the guy,
Yeah.
like me, would just immediately throw out, how much are we talking about? And I'm someone who would do that. Now, I'm not a hard sell. I'm actually a pretty easy sell, but I am going to try to cut to the bottom line immediately. And just for me personally, I'm the type of guy that if you say 15 to 20, I'm thinking it's going to be $20 a month. So if then you show me something later for 85, I'm like, whoa, bro, hold on. I almost feel like misled. You know what I'm saying?
I can appreciate that. Yeah. And I feel I've done it the other way where you're like, look, I've seen these systems go for $30,000, but I don't know what is in your house, what you need. You got a different size. You're unique from your neighbor. You know, you're unique. So a custom system is going to be built for you, and I don't know where that's going to land. I've done that as well. Absolutely.
Sure. And I think that's the alignment, even between both of your strategies, or the differences there. The alignment piece is that neither of you are presenting right then and there. You're bringing it up, you're mentioning it, you're beginning to inform the client that there's an issue that will need to be addressed, which you're going to review back later. And, you know, I think
if they're asking me for that price, I'm not giving them a price right then and there. No.
Right. And I think that, you know, that's, it almost works as like a reinforcer of your professionalism, because it feels like used car salesmen to be like, hey, come on down here. Let me show. Yeah. Oh, well, the low price of $9.99, you know, right here, we can get that done right away. As opposed to hang on before we jump to conclusions. I don't want to mislead you. I don't want to mislead myself. We need to do some deeper investigation here. And that seems like an appreciative thing for most homeowners, in my opinion.
Exactly. And I always try to tell my homeowners, look, I've seen this go as low as blank. I've seen this solution be taken care of, or seen this problem be taken care of for as low as blank. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't. But I know that it's affordable. That's a point I'm trying to make here, is that this doesn't have to be a budget breaker. So my process, I really felt that was, I'm giving them a relief, a sigh of relief, to let them know that it will be affordable one way or another. I've seen it go as low as blank. And then when I come up with a complete solution, they wouldn't be so caught off guard and tell me, you know, there's not another way, because they know there's another way. If I'm presenting them with that high number, they know that, hey, you also told me about a low number, so we can get somewhere in between. We can figure this out. That's the way that the calls ended well for me.
So I want to go back to kind of where we started the conversation, Jordan, which is, you know, earning the right? So flesh that out a little bit. We did a lot of good role play there, worked through a couple different solutions. When you're driving home on that concept of earning the right, you know, was that present in the role play, or is that something else you're employing there? So talk to us about that.
Present in the role play in the sake of, I'm not going to bring up solutions and options until the homeowner has asked me to do so.
Yeah.
And it's very simple. It's not something that's next level. It's so, you know, new and great, but it's something that we skip a lot. I've gone on ride-alongs over and over and over again where we just, hey, you got to fix this. This is broken. Here's what you got to do to fix it. And we never get asked to do that. And I felt like the ending of the call was completely different when my homeowner wanted a solution. Completely different dynamic.
Absolutely. And just kind of curious on that, like, what happens if the homeowner, you know, you get them involved and they're interested in everything, and you get to the end of the call and you kind of lay everything out. You know, remember that dirty blower wheel. Remember how we talked about, I was going to look for some things as to how we got here. Remember how you mentioned, I'm sure you're using like the recollection train to kind of bring them back up to current times.
How it's going to solve each problem. Correct.
Right. Exactly. What happens if they say, that's a lot of money, Jordan? I mean, is there like a semi-pro edition of this that maybe we
Yeah,
could do. I don't know,
exactly.
how do you walk your way down if like the top tier echelon package, like I don't know if you have a name for it, but like the Jordan's mom package, this is
Hmm.
what I would put in my mom's
Nice.
house type thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I appreciate that, Jordan, but I'm not your mom. So is there like a way that we could, cut a couple of these things out? How do you kind of reverse engineer back down?
That's the easy part, honestly. When I give them the complete solution, when they say, "Look, this is a little bit more than we wanted to spend," I completely understand. But I wanted to give you the best option for you and your family. This is going to completely solve all of your issues. Now, as we go through the things we talked about, what are some of the things that you can live with that don't need to be taken care of right now? And how would you like to handle that? So, for example, if I said dirty blower wheel, hot and cold spots, right? And for whatever reason, they said, well, the blower wheel, let's just clean it. Let's increase the filtration a little bit. We start talking about, okay, instead of a HEPA micro power guard, we then talk about just a micro power guard and how that affects the price. Or we talk about maybe a 5-inch filter, right? Maybe helping in that way and then cleaning the blower wheel, or just cleaning the blower wheel and getting rid of the hot and cold spots with the AeroSeal zoning, things like that. But we start making different options. I start giving them the monthly price and what it's going to take. And what I've noticed is my homeowner takes out less than I would. Because when I make my second and third option, I would dramatically decrease them. I would take the big thing out. And it would make them feel like, well, maybe that wasn't as important as I thought it was. And I didn't want to take the AeroSeal out when that was the one thing they wanted to buy. So I told them from that standpoint, now we start designing option 2, option 3, option 4, as many as you need to see. And this is where I then educate you from the professional point of view and tell you what that will do and the problems that you'll take care of or continue to have going forward. And is it worth taking out? And they went a lot less, or they took a lot less out than I would. Does that make sense?
I think that's fascinating. And, if there is a weakness to the multi-option solution, I think you pointed it out right there, because
Mm-hmm.
when you lay out multiple options, you are kind of guessing as
Yeah.
to which one to construct and how to construct it, right? While unless you've really done your due diligence, you don't really understand which, if any, of the A through F items that you've listed are actually high priorities in the client's mind. And so using your methodology, you actually have the opportunity to kind of like walk through things and be like, okay, oh wow, so you actually really were interested in the HEPA system. Absolutely, no problem. Whereas like if you were
Yeah.
building it from ground up, like you mentioned, you would have sliced and diced that thing off, because and that's where you get into your own head trash, right? And you're starting to say
Exactly.
like, well, $4,000
So
for a HEPA system, like obviously we're going to cut that out of the first option, right?
you're right. And I'm a victim of this. The reason I know it's true is because I did it for the first 4 years of my career. I sold 80 variables and I could never sell a 90 because I never offered it, right? Or if I did offer it, it was in one of my 3 options. So option 2, option 3 was the 80 variable. I was limiting myself. I was hurting my customers because I was not letting them tell me, because I may take the one thing out that was most important to them unknowingly to me and put it and take it out of my next 2 packages. And that was something I had to stop. And this is a way that I got out of my own way. And I let the homeowner tell me what was important to them. And I was then at that point a consultant to tell them what it was going to do and what it was going to cost. And I presented it and I stopped talking. And then when it wasn't good, let's look at another one. And we 3-hour call was average. I would spend a lot of time on a call. Absolutely. Until the client said, yeah, this is good for us. This fits. This takes care of enough issues and I'm comfortable going forward.
So I want to push into that because we had a great episode. This one's actually pretty old, but Andrew Dobbins was
Mm-hmm.
on a long time ago, and he talked about the concept of selling out of your own wallet. Specifically, don't sell out of your own wallet.
Yeah.
Just real briefly, if you haven't heard that episode, the concept is, I make $50,000 a year. So to me, $25 a month in a payment is a pretty big deal. And so
Yep.
I'm going to live my life and present my options in such a way that $25 a month is a big deal. Even if I'm standing in front of somebody who makes $500,000 a year, and $25 a month for them is like, their average coffee budget, right? And so like
Right.
not selling out of your own wallet is eliminating those biases and the way that you view life as the only way that exists, as opposed to thinking more broader than that. So kind of taking that concept back to what you were just talking about there. Let's say that you were in the market for a car, and I was at the car lot, and it was a used car lot, and I literally had options from a $2,000 200,000 mile beater car that like just barely passed inspection, and I also had on the lot a $150,000 just traded in Corvette, right?
Sure.
And you walk in as the homeowner, the ignorant homeowner, if you will, and you're like, I'm here to buy a car. How do you, and taking this back to the technician world, taking this back to the trade world, how do you even know where to start when you offer something?
I love that.
Because you could say like, hey, come on over here, man. Let me show you this pretty sweet looking Corvette, and like go off and off and off and all this stuff. And I'm like, bro, that thing costs more than my house. I don't even know what you're talking about. Or you could go the other way and be like, I don't know. I mean, you're probably into like an economy ride. Let me show you this thing over here. It's a beauty, but it's a beater, know? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I wouldn't have my dog drive that car. So how do you know where to find this starting place? Because I think a lot of technicians, especially younger ones, struggle with this piece where they're like, I don't know, am I supposed to like put everything on the table? There's 35 pieces of this package, and every option that I have is a $500 a month package, and then we'll have to whittle it down from there. Or do I start in the middle? Where do I go, Jordan?
Yeah, so one of the most important things that I started doing was sitting my homeowner down at the table before I even got to work. It's extremely important to have that rapport built up before you start going down and doing anything. Because I don't know what they're about, what they like, how long they've been there, what if they're moving, in 2 weeks, right? These are all things I need to know. But my job is to turn as many passive needs into active needs as I possibly can, right? So things that they don't know that they need.
Say that again.
Yeah, that was nice.
My job is to turn as many passive needs into active needs as I possibly can. They don't know they need it. I just need to educate them and tell them that it is something that they need. The active need is the system's broke, but they don't know that they need the 100% guarantees, the great things that we offer as a company, right? We have to show them that they need those things. Same with the car. So he may want that Corvette, but he doesn't know it. He doesn't know all the passive needs that thing can solve for him. That's what I'm talking about. Those are the next level things that you need to do before you present the option. So that's why I don't like going downstairs, doing your job, right? Doing a great maintenance. But for all I know is you're killing it in Candy Crush levels down in the basement and you're not doing anything. And you come upstairs and you're going to come to me and tell me, hey man, I got these 3 solutions for you because you have these issues, right? It's the same thing as you saying, I'm going to go show you this sweet Corvette or this beater I have over here. You're assuming and you're just going off what you think they need. And that is unethical, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I'm hearing you on that. I think it's words to the wise there in terms of the value of understanding your client through conversation, through questions, through evaluation, through just probing a little bit. That's a strong word, but really that's what we're trying to do, to even understand their interest. And of course, there's a significant amount of education that goes with that piece, right? If you're in most homeowners' minds, I don't care if you're a roofer, an HVAC technician, electrician, a plumber, who else we got, Brian? Drywallers, macadam guys, whatever. Most homeowners are generally ignorant to all of the services that you provide, at least at a base level, right? They may understand the visual aspect of it. They may understand the feeling that something provides, but they have like no concept about the mechanics of it, no concept about how it works, why it works, what it's supposed to do, what it could do, the upgrades, downgrades, the longevity of things. All this is a foreign concept to people. And so how do you educate well enough that they can understand the value of something without just boring them to death with info?
That's really important. And I tell this to the guys in my trainings. I almost make it a game to talk as little as possible and try to get them to talk as much as possible. If you try to get technical and over explain something, They are not like, say, for example, you're with a homeowner and they like you. You've built a rapport, right? And I try to explain to them a technical repair. And I use the words compressor, capacitor, hard start kit. They're confused. They don't want to tell me they're confused. They're going to say, I don't know. I got to think about it. Instead, if I say, look, the heart of the system is getting old. You know, it's a 12-year-old system, just like a person who gets 80, 85 years old. And when the heart gets overworked, generally people put a pacemaker to help it stay on beat and hit the way it's supposed to, right? Now, what if I could tell you, you know, if something happens to your heart and it stops, they put a defibrillator paddle and shock it back up. But what if I told you that I had something that could do that every single time that heart of your system tried to start again? Now, earlier you told me that your goal was to get this thing to last as long as possible. That's my goal too. And this is how we can get to that goal. Right? I'm not going to talk to them about this is an overamping compressor. You need a new capacitor. A hard start kit is going to bring the LRA and RLA down. No. They're confused. They're done listening, and they're going to say, I don't know. I got to think about it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, one thing that definitely stood out, and actually Bruce from Florida mentioned it later on in one of the panels. The role plays.
Bruce Fort from Service Minds, Mr. Sparky.
Yep, that's right. A lot of the role plays you were doing, you were the customer with the electricians up on stage at the conference. A lot of the role plays, the guys would just go technical.
Yeah.
And they were trying to go off on GFCIs and on arc fault breakers and like all this stuff. And like, it is a serious struggle for everybody in the trades, because to them, this is like geek out mode, you know, like, oh man, who wouldn't want to know about arc fault breakers? Like, who wouldn't want to know about water conditioning and how their filter works and all this stuff, right? And the homeowner is just like, you know, the eyes are glazing over, the mind is wondering. They start thinking about the 5 other things that they're supposed to be doing right now and what their kids' activities are that night. And they're just completely lost. So, you know, I appreciate what you're saying there so much. And I want you to double down on it, especially for the newbies out there, because I mean, shoot, we had some really stout guys up on stage who were doing great at the role play and everything, but they still kept defaulting into it, and they almost couldn't help themselves. So if I'm somebody coming up through the trades and like, you know, I'm finally getting my wits about me in terms of understanding the technical aspect of the job, how do I prevent myself from going so far over to like dude, you wouldn't believe all the knowledge that I have around electricity.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe it all. So how do I prevent myself from going over there while still maintaining a level of professional education that's important?
Yeah. So I look at technical aptitude, if you will, the ability to tell somebody how technically smart you are, as a tool bag. And I only pull the specific tool I need when I need it. Does that make sense? So as I'm talking to somebody who may be a little bit more like an engineer, I pull that tool out, I solve that problem, I put that tool back, and I go back to layman's terms. I practiced on my lovely wife, and if she could not understand what I was saying, I was too far into the technical world. All I want to say to these guys is, I want it to be digestible to any person walking down the street. It needs to be as easy as possible. What do people understand? They understand the human body. They understand the simple car repairs, right? Gas in your gas tank. Make it relatable to everyday people, and stop trying to overcomplicate it. You're the smartest person in the room. I got it, but you don't need to show it. We need to stop acting like that.
Find a kid and explain it to them. So we got we got a bunch of IAQ products for our new house here in Phoenix recently. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there were some big boxes just sitting next to the front door for a couple of days as we were waiting for the 1 hour tech here from Dustin Huffsey's team to come and put it in for me. And my 9-year-old and my 6-year-old asked what they were. And I quick said, you know, they're technical jargon, vomit, blah, 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 blah. And they started to walk away like they had no idea what I was talking about. I was like, come back over here for a sec. Yeah. And just really kind of as a sales test for myself, I explained it to them in a way that I knew that they would understand. And what did you do there with the pacemaker? I used analogies. Now, for them, it was a little bit different analogy than a pacemaker, because they would have no idea what I'm talking about with a pacemaker.
Sure.
But even with them, I was able which all of you listening are able to do, find a way to relate it to something that your client knows and understands, no matter who they are. And if they have an IQ of a 6-year-old, you can still do it. In fact, you should probably do it that way anyway, because
no matter what,
you're gonna try to relate it to something that you really understand, especially if you're younger and you're gonna start doing this thing. And it's still going to be confusing to the client. So find something that anyone you speak to would understand, even a 9-year-old, and explain it to the person that way, like you're talking to a 9-year-old, and watch how much more traction you get. Watch how much more interest you get, because all of a sudden now, when the tech came to put it in and it got put in, I honestly can't remember what I used for my 6-year-old, but I wish I had thought of this before this episode.
Sure.
But she said the thing that I talked about was put in when I got home from work that day. We were high-fiving about it. And now our air's clean.
Nice.
Yay, our air's clean,
Yeah, you got these, polarity, these air cleaners that do all these sweet things. And I always told my homeowners, they're like, you ever play with the magnets in school? The positive and the negative connects to each other. When it runs through this, it takes positives and turns them into negatives and vice versa. And they stick together and they make a bigger piece of dust, right? It's like little things like that. Very simple terms. Just keep it very easy. And a confused mind is going to say no. And if they like you, they don't want to tell you no. They're going to make something up because they're embarrassed that they're confused. And it's the same reason I always bring up financing, because I don't want to embarrass my homeowner to where they're like, I don't have $5,000. So you know what? I'm saying the minimum finance amount for this product. Boom. And then I will answer the question of what is it total cost when asked, right? So I agree with that premise. Keep it very simple. Answer questions asked of you. Don't over-explain, and keep it in layman's terms. Beautifully said.
I think for the listeners out there, all you need to do is find a picture of Brian Burton, screenshot it, make it the background of your phone, and then every time you look at your phone, you're reminded of, I have to really dumb this presentation down.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really good, Jordan. And as we're wrapping things up here, I did want to give you the opportunity to talk about one other concept, which was the invisible mindset, which is something I'm curious about. And, we've gone a lot of different directions here in terms of like how to present and how to investigate and how to involve the client with everything. But I want to hear more from you about this invisible mindset.
Yeah. So the easiest way I can put it is answering questions that were never asked. So for example, the price question is something that people always ask. So how I've seen it answered is, well, it's $1,300, but you have to understand that that's installed parts and labor. I got to do some sheet metal work. We also have financing. So if you're going to get approved, it could be 50 or 25. And I don't know if that's 10 years or 8. Like, what are we doing right now? Right? I could have said 2 or 3 things that had created an objection and never would have been there. You can say something as simple. I've seen this go in as low as $25 a month. Stop. Don't talk. Wait for their response. Then they will tell you where to go next. Don't get yourself in trouble. Just answer the question asked of you and then go from there. You know how many times I've given them it's been $25 a month and I've gotten the, wow, I can do that. Well, how do we get that? I'm not a finance guy. Here's an iPad. You fill this out. They'll let you know your exact amounts, but I've seen it go this low. They fill it out. Done. There was no other questions asked. I'm just answering what was asked of me. If they want to know the total price, I absolutely tell them with confidence, without stuttering, it is $1,306. And then I just answer the questions asked of me. The invisible mindset is creating objections where there may never have been one by talking too much.
Okay, so you mentioned like the concept of price there. Can you give us some other examples of what that would look like where I'm overstepping my conversation?
Exactly. So AeroSeal. Let's talk about AeroSeal, right? So somebody asks, would AeroSeal help with my hot and cold spots? You could get yourself in a lot of trouble if you start, for one, you bring it up without knowing static pressure, all that. But what if you said, well, yeah, I've seen it help, but I've also seen it cause this, this, and this, right? Or I've seen this not work. I've seen that not work. There's many different ways you can take it. But I'm simply answering the question asked of me. Yes, I have seen it take care of hot and cold spots.
Yeah, I think
is it right for my house? I don't know. I need to do a full investigation. But if it
Right.
is, I will absolutely tell you. How does that sound? But I'm only answering the question asked of me.
Brian, is that Sandler? I can't remember. That says never answer an unasked question.
Yeah,
The Sandler, yes.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Sandler.
I love it. Hey, I made none of this up. I owe this to people much smarter than me. I read a lot of books. I'm a huge reader. How to Win Friends and Influence People, my favorite book of all time. My mentor taught me this stuff, Matt Gower, and I mushed it all together, and I'm just trying to give it back.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And you certainly have, Jordan. We've really appreciated you being on, man.
Wait, more so than the regular, because the three of us were in Texas together this morning. But I mean, yesterday at the conference, Nate is now in Pennsylvania. I'm in Phoenix. Jordan's actually in Phoenix. But yesterday outside the bathroom, I grabbed Jordan and I said, dude, your star's rising. I love your energy. Told you this at the last convention. I'm hearing great things throughout the brands about you. And I said, if we had a room full of 1,000 technicians across the street there and you were going to train them right now, what would you train them on? And he told me, and then I said, all right, let's do an episode. And then today, kind of on the plane, I thought, man, it would be great to do an episode like this right after the Authority Brands Conference. By right after, I meant Monday. Today's Thursday.
Yeah.
So
that's about 4 hours.
Yeah. So Jordan got off a plane today. His mom's there here in Phoenix, who he hasn't seen in a year and a half. And he just automatically agreed to spend an hour with us and in your passenger seat. And for that, I want to say thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts and all of our audience that's listening as well, man. That was big of you. And we appreciate you jumping in at short notice like that. Tell your mom we really appreciate her letting you break away for an hour.
No, I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on. And if I can help anybody out there, please let me know.
And speaking of that, Jordan, before we let you go, if people are interested in learning more about you, about your concept of ethics, about the idea, the invisible mindset, overstepping your bounds, any of the concepts we talked about today, or just looking for some motivation, which is a big thing of what you do, where's a great place to find you?
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm with Success Academy as Authority Brand. So if you're in the Tri Brands, you reach out to Success Academy, and I'd love to come to your shop and help you out. If anybody else has questions, would like to reach out to me, I'd love to help them as well. Phone number 913-282-0031. Cell phone number. I give it to anybody. Let me know what I can do.
Appreciate it, man. It's been good to have you on, and I know our listeners will have some provocative thoughts about today's episode in terms of like getting their mind turning and thinking about how they can apply these things to their process and what that looks like, and ideally even picking out some things to like, oh wow, I didn't know I was doing that, and that sounds bad. I need to change that up, man. So thanks so much. I'll double down on what Brian said. Thanks so much for taking some time, even outside of a busy week that was already part of the schedule here, and this was not part of it. So thanks for taking time to do that. We've appreciated it, and I'm sure our listeners will as well.
And thank you, Nate. Thank you, Nate, as well, because Nate signed on to do this last minute. He's like, bro, he literally texted me, I haven't seen my wife and kids all week, and it's going to be 10 o'clock. It's right now 10 o'clock at night his time. I'm like, well, they're probably sleeping by now. You're fine.
Well,
so stop
I appreciate
all the time and just get on the show.
Look, what I'll say is this. I've listened to many, many episodes, and I appreciate you not taking it easy on me, Nate. I expected nothing less, and you beautifully delivered. So,
Jordan, do you have
you did a great job
for the audience? Is there a favorite people should go back and listen to?
Yeah. This one.
Oh, man.
No, man.
Spoken like a true sales trainer narcissist.
I'm just messing with you, man. The Black Swan group was awesome, and I really enjoyed the 7 objections you guys did. It was beautifully done. The spouse objection, I could not agree more. Know about it before the end of the call. It's well done. I was sitting here just like, you know what? Everybody needs to listen to this. You guys do a great job. You're helping a lot of people. And I was absolutely honored to be on. So thank you.
Appreciate that, brother. We will have you on again.
See you guys.
Hey, that's a wrap for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed your time listening to Jordan. It was great to hear from him and learn about some concepts that he's been employing in the field these aren't just made up things. These are battle tested ideas that he's put into practice for many years. And we appreciate him sharing that with us, especially after a long week. Make sure that you hit him up, especially if you're in the Authority Brands Network. He'd love to come to your shop and hang out with you. And if you're not in there, he did provide his cell phone, which we are very appreciative as well. Give him some feedback. Let him know that you appreciated his episode and you heard him on Waste No Day. And as for now, we want to leave you with our weekly challenge, which continues to be the same: to choose to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.